What's up? I'm your host Cobra, and today we're getting ready for the Chicken Derby drop on August 20th. Talking about Chicken Derby. This is a project that I've been following for a couple of months now. They've had one drop so far, and on Friday the 20th at 4 p.m. Pacific time, they're going to have their second and final drop. They've already sold 20,000 chickens so far. They're going to be selling the remaining 13,000 on Friday. So this will be your last opportunity to mint chickens and get them at retail price. The first drop actually went really interesting. They had a couple of things happen where they started a few minutes early, and it wasn't perfectly smooth, but compared to most project drops, it was actually very good because it's transacted on the Polygon sidechain. That means that gas fees are very low. So even though there was huge demand for minting, there wasn't a lot of fees involved. I went ahead and minted 5 chickens last time. I got pretty good pulls. Was able to sell a couple of them. One had cosmetic stripes, which made it a bit more rare. I had another one that was a pretty high quality Surama chicken, which is the best type that you can get, with a really solid talent as well. So we sold that for a big profit, and then reinvested in a bunch of Sultan heritage chickens. That's where I believe the best value is today on the secondary market. So those are the ones that we're holding. We're going to take a look at all of this stuff. I'm going to give you some high-level information about the chickens that you'll be minting if you decide to participate in this drop, and what's important for you to know when it comes time to potentially sell some chickens afterwards. So as always, let's take a quick look at the white paper before the drop happens and get familiarized with the project. So Chicken Derby at its core is not too dissimilar from some of the other projects that we've talked about. It's another racing game. Yes, those have been pretty popular. It's a concept that's fairly simple from a game perspective, which is why I believe we're seeing so many of them pop up. It's also a popular game to offer, right? People like racing. It's exciting to see if an NFT that you own can actually win a race and earn you some cryptocurrency. So people like it. That's why it's popular. You're going to be minting chickens. What's interesting about them is that each chicken has both cosmetic traits, which make it similar to some of the PFP projects and other things that we see getting minted a lot, especially on OpenSea these days. It also has game traits that impact how good a chicken it is. Similar to Zed Run and Axie, there's going to be breeding. So 33,000 chickens that are kind of the Genesis chickens from the company BitLovin. After that, it's going to be produced by players. We don't have a ton of information about how the breeding mechanics are going to work today, but the chickens that you mint will either be roosters or hens. So if you're intending to actually play the game, I think you want to have at least one of each so that you have the possibility to start breeding right away. Now, from a gameplay standpoint, there's a couple of things that you need to know. There's 4 different heritage. I mentioned at the top, Surama is the best kind. There's, I believe, about 2,000 of those in the 33,000 total. Sultan is the second level. That's where I've been investing. I often find that second best is the best value. These are much cheaper. They're known for endurance races. That's something we don't see in any of the other descriptions. Anything explaining what they're going to be good at. Because we know that Sultans are supposed to be good at endurance races, that means the longer ones. It should be a bit easier to find out what they're good at, and I think it'll be a little bit easier to control your breeding with Sultans. But that's a guess based on this white paper. Lincolnvelders are kind of the uncommons. They are Not worth a terrible amount more than the Dorkings, but this is kind of the minimum pull, and you'll be able to resell those at least around mint price. If you end up with a better version of them, perhaps a little bit more, but you're looking for either cosmetic traits or you want Saramas and Sultans. The other thing to keep in mind is the perfection level. The first 20,000, the lowest you could get was 90%. The high percentage perfections were selling really good. I was surprised at how much of a difference that made in their sale price. If you're in the 96 plus range, you can definitely get a premium for that. The way that perfection works, or why it's important, is the closer they are to 100%, the better offspring they're going to breed. So far, everything has been spicy stock, so this is a non-factor. I believe we're going to see that go down through breeding generations. Talent. We don't talk about it too much here in this part of the white paper. There's a bunch more information here. We're going to take a quick look at it because the talents do make a big difference. Actually, let's go over here. This is where the talents are at. You can see there's a whole bunch of them: common, uncommon, rare, and very rare. The rare talents and the very rare talents will resell for quite a lot, even on a Dorking chicken, because they're just pretty rare. They're also the coolest looking ones. The talents are the thing that really caught my attention here, and make it a little bit different from some of the other racing games. So each chicken has a talent of some type. The more common ones, I think, will be less useful in the races, but still going to be interesting, right? Drop an anvil on the chicken in front of you, for example. Pull out a CK-47 and shoot down a couple of your opponents. Interesting. Should make the races fun to watch. I don't know how useful those are going to be. They certainly don't seem to have much resale value today. But as you get into the uncommon talents and the rare talents, they start to get really interesting. It's a little bit difficult to tell which ones are going to be the best, but the ones that stand out to me are helicopter. That's where your chicken gets up into a helicopter and then fires a few bullets from up above, and I believe gets dropped off further in front. Blue egg sounds just like the blue shell in Mario Kart, where it's going to go automatically to the person in first and blow them up. That sounds very cool. And then my favorite one, I don't own any of these yet, but de-evolution is where your chicken turns into a dinosaur, stomps forward, and I believe will try to eat some of the other chickens in front of it as well. So it'll be interesting to see how these impact the races. Certainly they're going to make them more fun to watch and more interesting. But what you're looking for is better heritage chickens, right? Saramas and Sultans, ideally, with uncommon or rare talents. And then there are the cosmetics. Some of these make a difference in the pricing today. Some of them do not. It's going to be interesting to see as breeding becomes available, how these traits are passed down and what type of opportunity you have with the different traits. But you can see the different coats here. They're interesting. Stripes are fairly rare. This classic look is pretty rare. The black ones are very rare. The robots, these three I believe are the best that you can get. They can also still have the different heritage traits, right? So it could be a Sarama robot chicken. That would be incredibly rare. People don't seem to care about the combs and wattles, but they're interesting looking. Vampire teeth and a beak ring are also rare. So if you see either of those, you're in good shape. So far, I don't think people really care too much about the eyes. I tend to think the bloodshot ones look pretty cool. So do the angry ones. But again, those don't seem to make much difference. The rare eyes, those will carry some premium, not as much as some of the others though. And then here we can see the specific counts, right? So a chicken with stripes, that's one of the better pulls I got last time. There's only 3% of the population with stripes. Half of that have a vampire teeth, for example. And you can go through this list here and see But a Sarama with a teal wattle and comb is one of 100. So is the black chicken and the robot chicken. The classic has 300. All right, so before we take a look at my chicken coop, I want to show you the sales activity on OpenSea from the first drop. So as I mentioned, the first drop I minted 5 chickens. We had pretty good results from that 5 chickens. Here you can see the sales and purchases. It totals up to about 1.1 in sales and about 0.8 in profit. Now the chickens cost 0.03, I believe, to mint the first time around, so they were relatively inexpensive. That is a massive gain on only 5 chickens. Now you can see here, the Sarama was the bulk of my sales. That went for 0.675. The striped Lincolnvelder went for 0.21. And then I had another Lincoln that was a 96% perfection, which makes it potentially a pretty good breeder. So that one sold pretty well also. Key to getting those sale prices was understanding what I had. This Sarama had a rare trait, cold snap. That's why it is going for more than the floor Saramas are. It was also, I believe, a 94, 95 perfection. So a pretty darn good chicken. Would have been cool to keep that one, but that is a sizable gain that cannot be ignored, in my opinion. All right, let's take a quick look at my chicken coop. As I mentioned earlier, during the first drop, I minted 5 chickens. We sold them all off at a large profit and then repurchased where I thought the best value was. The second most rare heritage type is a Sultan, and that's where I saw the best value. There was quite a dip from the Sarama pricing, which makes sense because Sarama's at the very top. The other thing I like about Sultans is that we know a little bit more about them from a gameplay perspective because they have been bred for endurance racing. So for these factors, I wanted to pick up a bunch of Sultan chickens to get started with from a gameplay perspective. Sultan is also where you're going to find the purple color. That is a personal favorite of mine, and so hopefully we'll be able to flip some of these blue ones for more purple in the future, but we're going to wait until we find out more about how breeding actually works. Now I chose to ignore perfection a little bit more than the rest of the market. You'll see I've got a 91, 91, 92, and 94 perfection. The ones that I pulled were definitely better than that, some 95s, 96s. But this was simply me going against the grain. The market in the immediate aftermath was definitely valuing high perfection, so we sold those. And it wasn't putting a whole lot of premium on talents below the rare level. Helicopter is one that I rather like. I was able to get that for only a little bit above the floor price for a Sultan. That is a cool one where your chicken goes up into a helicopter, fires some bullets on its opponents, and then gets dropped off in the front. Sounds like it's good from a gameplay perspective. Certainly should be funny to watch during a race. The other one that I think is kind of cool in the common class is Blue Rooster. This is essentially a take on Red Bull Gives You Wings. The chicken will have a generic energy drink, get a big boost, and shoot to the front. That also sounds like a good one from a gameplay perspective, and I think it's kind of cute, so we went for that one. The CK-47, I just think guns are going to be popular, and that will probably sell a little bit better, but isn't necessarily a favorite of mine. So the Chicken Derby drop happens on Friday the 20th at 4 p.m. Pacific time. The mint price is going to be 0.043 Ethereum. This will take place on the Polygon sidechain, so no worries about gas fees there. This one also gets a full recommendation from Cobra. It checks all of the boxes, and I don't necessarily mean that from a profit standpoint, although as I showed you, I did very well on the first drop, and do expect that with some decent pulls, I'll be able to do pretty well on this next drop as well. But beyond just the profit capabilities, it looks like a fun game. It is a fun minting process. There's not a lot of worries from a gas perspective or losing money to fees like you often see on Ethereum. But also just these chickens are fun. They're colorful, cartoony. The art is interesting, and they have plenty of utility because it is based on a game that is coming later this year, and will give you more opportunities to earn money. It's also relatively cheap. You get to mint a random chicken for just 0.043 Ethereum. Nothing in Ethereum is cheap, but relative to other Ethereum prices, that's lower than we typically see for a mint cost. And with the games especially, we usually see that it's not a random mint, but rather you're paying for the quality of the asset that you're getting, right? We talked about Riot Racers. They've got gas station NFTs selling for 4+ Ethereum. There's no luck involved there, like there is with potentially pulling a robot chicken Sarama, but that adds quite a lot of gambling to the minting process and makes it that much more fun. So for those reasons, I think it's a great one to check out. Relatively cheap, fun NFTs, fun game, good profit potential. I will be doing a follow-up video after the drop, talk about how we did, what kind of chickens we got, which ones we're going to keep, which ones we're going to sell, and hopefully we'll learn a little bit more along the way. So are you planning to mint some chickens on Friday? How many did you get? What kind of results did you have? Let me know down in the comments. Also, make sure you give a like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the future content on the Freeroll channel. I've also included several links to the Chicken Derby website so that you can check out their white paper, learn a little bit more about the project yourself. Always recommend reading that white paper before you mint. Come back after the drop and let us know how it went. Because gamers, we're free rolling.